The Stellar Track is HumanWare's standalone navigation device. You can use maps and navigate offline. You can create your own landmarks and routes, have points of interest read aloud for you, and even browse maps from home. It can also read text aloud for you. It has a barcode reader, color identifier, compass, crosswalk detection, and pedometer. In this video, we're going to go over what it can do, how it works, and my experience using it. Let's do it. Hi everyone, this is Carrie on Accessibility, where we talk tech and accessibility. Today we're talking about the Stellar Track, and it's a surprisingly really neat device. I'll be honest with you, before I tried it out, before I got it, I really didn't think that I would like it. After all, I have a smartphone. And why do I need a separate device, another tech that I have to make sure is charged? And wouldn't it just be better if everything was just on one magical device that could do it all? But after some time and after really trying this out, I can really see where this can be super helpful in a lot of different situations, especially because this works offline, and I don't know if there's apps for everything that this thing does as accurately or as quickly, and it has buttons. So thank you to HumanWare for sending this over for me to try out. I'll discuss my experience and how I feel about this product in more detail later on in this video. If you want, you can also navigate through different sections of this video by using the YouTube video chapters. First, let's describe the device and go over some specifications. It has mostly a rectangular shape. I'm going to compare it with my Pixel 8 Pro. It's a lot less wide, so I can really hold this with just one hand. It's definitely a one-handed device. It's also much shorter, but it is definitely a lot thicker. From the website, the dimensions are 5.53 inches by 2.42 inches by 1.06 inches. The device is made of plastic, and on the front it has kind of these tapered edges all around on the front face. That's very slight. It just makes it feel a little easier to hold, I think. It's weatherproof, so a little bit of rain and snow is probably fine. On their website, it says IPX1 rated. It has a headphone jack, a 500 milliwatt speaker, and a mono omnidirectional microphone. For storage, it has 32 gigs of flash memory. It has 4 gigs of RAM. It has dual cameras, 13 megapixel. One is 74 degrees and the other is 117 degrees field of view. It has dual band Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 5. The website says the battery life should be all-day battery, which for me, I don't know, it was about maybe 16 hours give or take in moderate use, which is definitely longer than a phone. The battery is not user replaceable, so it's built right into the device. It does have a USB-C port, so technically you could use an external battery if you wanted. I'm not sure if they recommend that, but you could. Inside the box, aside from the device itself, there is a USB-C to USB-A cable. It's longer than 3 feet, maybe it's around 6. Don't quote me on that. It is a pretty decent length. There are quite a few different adapters for the power brick. And then there's a belt clip as well as a hand or wrist strap lanyard. And there's also a getting started guide. Now let's move on and talk about all the different buttons and controls and ports on the actual device. On the front face, we have the logo here, and it says Stellar Track. There are 2 buttons at the top, and most of these buttons have like a bit of a rubber texture, and that first top left button is the back button. This has a little tactile marking that feels kind of like a line, and this button will take you back And if you press and hold, it takes you to the Explore. It's a little bit like your home screen on your phone. The button on the right of that is the Go To button, and that's where you can enter addresses or look up some landmarks and routes and addresses that you've been to before. To the left of the back button is a little hole, and that is the microphone. Below that row is a group of arrow keys that surround a confirm or OK button. The confirm button has this rubber texture, and then the buttons around it have these little arrow markings going up, left, down, and right. Most of the time, the left and right arrows take you to different options, and then up and down takes you through the different options in the context menu for that specific item. These arrow keys also have other functions when you're kind of in that home screen explore mode. For example, double pressing the down arrow will give you device status and time and battery.
Battery 55%, 9:46 p.m. GPS low.
And then you can also press and hold the down arrow.
Settings.
And that will take you to settings. You can long press the up arrow to get to your applications.
Applications. Pedestrian Crossing Detection.
And we'll go over those applications later in this video. Below that, on the left side, is the Where Am I button. And you can press that and it will announce where you are.
Heading southeast. Near 10. West 3rd Street.
If you press and hold it, it's more like what's around.
What's around?
And that will give you things like landmarks and points of interest near you. That is kind of a longer button. And then on the right of that is an orange smaller button, and that is called the voice button. You can use this to repeat something that it said or for dictation. Below those buttons, it kind of curves down or tapers down, and there's a indent here, and this is the speaker. On the right edge, starting at the top, we have a little round button, and that is the power button. You can press and hold it to turn it on if it's on, and you do a quick press, this can turn on or off sleep.
Sleep on. Explore. GPS ready.
To power the device off, you would press and hold that button and then press confirm to shut down. It also has an automatic turn off feature that you can adjust in the settings. Right below that is an LED light, and it will light up when it's charging, and it will be green when it's above 90%. Below that is another button that has a little red dot on it, and this is the record button. This is how you can record landmarks and routes and also labels for the barcode reader. Next we have the left edge, and all that's here is the volume up and down. The volume can go pretty high. They also have an outdoor volume, but when you use the outdoor volume, you do sacrifice sound quality for the volume. I kind of wish that it could get louder and have that outdoor volume without distortion.
Volume 13. Volume 14. Volume 15. Outdoor volume 1. Outdoor volume 2. Outdoor volume 3.
If you press the volume up and down at the same time and do a quick press,
Speed.
it will toggle you to speed, and
Speed
then
2.
from there the volume
Speed 3.
keys will adjust speed.
Speed 4. Speed 10. Speed minus 3. Speed 0.
Those sound effects really remind me of the NLS book players. Moving on to the bottom edge, in the middle there is a USB-C port, and to the right of that is the headphone jack. The top edge doesn't have anything. On the back face of the device, near the top are the dual cameras. Below that, and all through the bottom back half of the device, they have these textured plastic, which is supposed to help you grip the device. There's also the serial number printed on the back. You can also access it in the settings. Near the bottom, it's actually quite close to the USB-C port, is the little holes where you can attach the lanyard. Now let's go on and talk about the features of this device. This is first and foremost a GPS navigation device. You will need Wi-Fi to set up, do updates, download maps. But after that, if you have all your maps and everything downloaded, you do not need Wi-Fi to use this as a GPS navigation maps device, or even use the applications that we'll talk about. You can navigate to a specific address, and then you can choose between pedestrian or motorized route. So that would be for the car, or pedestrian is if you're walking. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. I'm going to press and hold that power button. It vibrates. That way you know it's doing something.
Welcome to Stellar Trek. Explore. Wi-Fi connected. Searching for satellites.
Now it's going to try to connect to different satellites for GPS. And with the new update, it will also tell you the status of the GPS, if it's high or medium or low signal.
Entering open area.
GPS ready.
Dead end on. 10 o'clock, 27 feet.
Home. So there you go. I had a landmark right there that I was actually talking on the phone while I recorded that, but you can make little voice memos up to 4 seconds of landmarks and route names. So one thing I did notice, it does take a while to power on, so I like to just put it to sleep, and that way I know as soon as I press that sleep button or the power button really quick, it will wake up really quickly.
Explore. GPS ready.
Kind of reminds me of like a smartphone and how you lock or unlock or turn off the screen versus powering off the whole device. So that main mode, it's called Explore, which is also kind of what I mentioned earlier. It's kind of like your home screen, and from there you can access pretty much everything. Once you're already in that Explore mode, it's already ready and it's going to start working. It'll announce what road you're on, the upcoming intersection, if there's a traffic light, what kind of intersection is it, is a four-way intersection, things like that. And now in certain areas, they also can announce bus stops, points of interest, and landmarks that you have manually created. And you would use that record button on the right edge to create that.
Explore.
Heading west. Near 10. West 3rd Street. Next intersection in 177 feet, 4 ways. With traffic light.
I found it really responsive when I would walk or even in the car, telling me the different intersections and the roads that I'm on. I really enjoyed that. By default, it'll automatically see how fast you're going and then judge if it should be in pedestrian or motorized mode for the Explore mode. And when you are in motorized mode, it will be less verbose, meaning it will give you less information since you're going faster and you may not need it. Things like the types of intersection, if it has a traffic light. It will also not announce points of interest when you're in motorized mode. However, you can still access the points of interest if you press and hold the Where Am I button.
What's around? 4 items. 2.
Lows.
Lump 3.
Krispy Kreme.
4.
Travelers in.
I think part of that is you're going really fast in a car and there may be too many points of interest for it to work very well. When it comes to the GPS, typically on an app, it kind of forces you to be on a road. However, you can enter what's called an open area so that it won't necessarily try to land you on a specific road. Let's say if you're out in, a trail or camping or on a campus or a location that has like just a large outdoor area and you're not necessarily on a road. You probably want to do that if you are making like different routes to different classes, maybe things like that. That may be really helpful, especially when there are roads that are not mapped in regular databases. However, something to note here, this is still using GPS, so remember there's only so much accuracy that it can have. It's just the limitation of GPS. Now to enter an actual address, you would press that go to button, which is the top right button.
Select the landmark as your destination. 10 landmarks.
Once you do that, you can press the left and right arrow keys to go through the landmarks. If you press left, actually,
Sort.
you can sort,
Enter an address.
enter an address, so you would type that in. Now I'm going to scroll through these addresses and get to one that I could probably show. Hold on.
Church. North Carolina.
Press confirm to start route in pedestrian mode.
If we wanted to change that, we can press down arrow.
Start in motorized mode. Enter map browsing mode. Delete landmark. Rename landmark with audio. Rename landmark with text. And set as a possible destination. Start in pedestrian mode.
I was pressing up and down arrow to go through that context menu, and then you can just press confirm on whichever option you want. One thing I want to talk about is map browsing mode. It is a really cool feature where you can just be at home or wherever really and just browse a map, kind of like how somebody could just pull up Google Maps and then look at the different streets and understand the layout of everything. This one is accessible though. If anybody knows an app like that, that would be really cool and I would love to learn about it. So leave that in the comments if you know something like that. But anyway, back to the Stellar Trek. I really like this, and we'll check out map browsing mode by entering the destination of a college that I did a summer program at. From Explore, we press the go to.
Select the landmark as your destination.
I'm going to
Sort.
press
Enter
left.
an address.
And I'm going to press confirm on enter an address.
Select the country. One country. United States.
It says it's only one country because I've only downloaded maps from the United States.
Select a state. 2 states. North Carolina. New Jersey.
So I'm going to press confirm on New Jersey.
Enter city name. Q.
So now we'll talk a little bit about the keyboard. This is laid out very similarly to a keyboard on a TV. So right now it said Q, so that's the letter that I'm on. I can press the arrow keys, and right now I've set to QWERTY, but you can change it to alphabetical. So I presume it would start on A and then B and then C, and then it would have different rows for different items. So if I press the right arrow,
W.
it would take me to W.
E.
And then right arrow again is E. And if I go all the way to the right,
R. T. Y. U. I. O. P. E. Done.
done is all the way to the right. And then if I move back to the left a little,
P. Underscore.
and now I'm going to press down.
Dash. Space. Switch to numbers. Shift.
This is left
Alt.
now.
Switch to symbols. Shift. Switch
Now
to
back
space.
to right.
Done.
Once you get to the end of a row, you will get that little sound effect. Something that you can use is Dictation, West 3rd Street. Though I've had some trouble with it, you're supposed to press and hold the voice button, which is the little orange button at the bottom right. And I'm going to say Madison. I'm going to let go.
Madison. Press go to confirm.
Okay, I'm going to press the go to button to confirm.
Madison. Searching. Select a city. 7 cities.
Madison. Madison Park.
Okay.
Madison.
So I'm pressing left and right to go through the different suggested cities, and I'm just going to press confirm on the first one.
Enter street name.
Madison.
Madison. Press go to confirm.
Okay. It did take a little bit, but it got it.
Madison. Searching. Select street. 1 street.
Madison Avenue.
Okay.
Woodbridge TWP.
Now I'm going to press confirm on that one.
Enter civic number. 1.
This keyboard is slightly different since it's only numbers. If I press right,
2. 3. Underscore. Done.
and then if I go back
Underscore.
over,
2. 1. 4.
now I press down and I get to the next row.
5. 3.
So I'm just going to type this one in. 3,
6.
36, and you press confirm anytime you want to go ahead and select that character. Now I'm going to press the go to button to confirm.
36. Searching. Please wait. Please wait.
Let's see if it can get Drew University. That's where we're going to go.
Wait.
Just to let you know,
Please
I
wait.
didn't edit this part to make it shorter. Sometimes it can
Please
take a
wait.
while like this, or sometimes it can be a bit faster.
Please wait. Please wait. Please wait. Select address range or intersection. One address range or intersection. 300 to 399.
Okay, so for some reason, it can't find 36. It may be because of the campus and the layout. So I'm going to press confirm.
300 to 399 Madison Avenue, Woodbridge, TWP, New Jersey.
Press confirm to start route in pedestrian mode.
Now I'm going to press down arrow until we get to map browsing mode.
Start in motorized mode. Enter map browsing mode.
Okay, and I'm going to press
Entering
confirm.
map browsing mode.
You are currently on Madison Avenue. Heading north.
This is all virtual. I can press the up arrow to move forward.
In 3 feet. Three-way intersection. Madison Avenue. With stop sign. Crossing. Main Street.
Okay, so if I press right, I'm going to turn right.
On your right, Main Street.
Okay, now if I press up arrow, I'm going to go in that direction.
In 219 feet. Three-way intersection. Main Street. Crossing. Oak Avenue. With stop sign. On your right.
So this can be really helpful when planning out different routes and just trying to understand geographically a location and trying to see what's around. Speaking of what's around, let's try pressing the Where Am I button, and it should tell you where you are currently in this virtual space.
Heading northeast. Near 281 Main Street. Current intersection. 3 ways. Main Street.
I'm going to try pressing and holding the Where Am I button.
What's around? 3 items. 1.
Woodbridge Machine and Tool Company.
Business service.
259 Bergen Street. 266 feet.
We have the points of interest, and you can press left and right to navigate these different points of interest. So I'm going to press right.
2.
Wellness through Taiji.
Sports activities.
260 Grove Street. 302 feet.
I'm going to press right again.
Press confirm. 3.
First Choice Title Agency.
Business service.
281 Main Street.
Press confirm to enter route preview in pedestrian mode from this location.
So I can press confirm right here, and it's like we're going to preview the route.
Pedestrian Guidance. 2. First Choice Title Agency. Route length 687 feet. Remaining time 3 minutes.
Route preview mode.
Please head northwest.
Alright, so now this is going to be a very similar experience to any route that you navigate with Stellar Trek, whether you're in map browsing mode or whatever landmark, pedestrian route, or motorized route that you choose. You can press left and right to hear the different steps in your route.
In 301 feet, go straight on. St. James Avenue. In 320 feet, turn left on Main Street. In 67 feet, destination on your left.
So that's what it would be like to browse the map and preview a route. However, if you're actually doing a route, it will give you guidance, just like Google Maps or Apple Maps, and it'll say turn left on whatever street and things like that.
Turn left on North Main Street. Destination will be on your left in 118 feet. 4-way intersection. On North Main Street. You have reached your destination. On your left.
Route deactivated. To give help in being guided to the door, press and hold the up arrow key and navigate to address confirmation. Explore.
That's all about maps and navigation and how to use it, just to give you an idea of what it's like. But now let's move on to applications. From the Explore mode, again, you can press back or press and hold it to go back to the Explore mode. You can press and hold the up arrow and it will take you to the list of applications. So let's go ahead and press and hold that and we'll get to applications, and I'll press right arrow to cycle through the different available applications.
Applications: Pedestrian Crossing Detection, Address Confirmation, Quick Reading, Detailed Reading, Color Detection, Barcode Scanning, Compass, Pedestrian Crossing Detection.
Those are the different options. Now we'll go quickly through each one of these. Pedestrian Crossing uses a camera on the back of the device and it tries to use the lines on the road to help you stay centered, and then it'll say things like look left or look right when you're kind of veering. So that can be helpful, particularly in more difficult intersections.
Point further to the right.
It gives you some sound effects of when it's okay to go. Quick note here, it does not replace your mobility skills, whether you're using a cane or a guide dog. This will just, it's just a mobility aid. The next one is
Address Confirmation.
how it's supposed to work is you get to a place and it will detect a door, and the more beeps that it makes, the more confident it is that there's a door there. Once you're pretty confident of a door being there, you can press the confirm button and it'll take a picture and it will try to use OCR and try to recognize the address.
One house number. Door with number 13 to 20 feet at 11 o'clock.
And also the text that maybe is on the door, like business hours and things like that. The first time I tried it, it was beeping and I just didn't really understand what it was supposed to do. So sometimes it does help to read instructions.
Quick Reading.
The next one is Quick Reading, and the one right after that is
Detailed Reading.
Detailed Reading. This is basically the OCR or text recognition applications on the Stellar Track, and they're pretty good. The detailed reading is more for documents. You know, you can do a page. It actually does it pretty well.
Need to move on to a serious buyer. Low. Sir, name your price. Of the man was sizing us up.
I use the OCR a lot when I went to this new children's museum with my son and my sister's family. It was actually really helpful
Complete a circuit and crank the generator to power it.
to have like a device where I can press a button and have it continuously read what's in front of me instead of like having to pull out my phone. That was a really, really cool feature, and it did actually really well for something that's offline and not a smartphone. I was very pleasantly surprised. One thing that I did notice is that I had to get a little closer than usual. It's still like feet away, but I felt that I had to get a little bit closer, and it did struggle with lower light situations, but surprisingly not as much as I thought it would. You know, in an environment that wasn't super bright, it was still able to read things, and that was really nice.
Color Detection.
For color detection, it will use your camera, and then you can press the confirm button and have it detect colors. If it detects multiple colors, you can press left and right to review those. This is our dog, by the way. Honestly, it's hit and miss with any color identifier. I have not seen an app or a device that is highly accurate with color, but this one honestly does a generally decent job of it.
Barcode Scanning.
It also has a barcode scanner, and you can use it to scan different barcodes, and once you find a barcode, it will give you the different products, and you can select one if there's multiple ones and use the left and right arrow for more information.
Barcode Selection. One product found.
Tostitos Scoops Tortilla Chips 10-ounce plastic bag.
Product details. Brands.
Tostitos.
Ingredients.
Corn, vegetable oil, corn, canola.
One cool thing is you can actually record your own voice labels for barcodes. Even if there is already a detected label, you can make your own.
Barcode selection. 1 record label. Record label.
Stop eating so many chips.
Label recorded.
Stop eating so many chips.
I wish that it wasn't just a 4-second voice memo. I wish it could be a little longer in case, there's specific product details that run a little longer than 4 seconds.
Compass.
It has a compass. It's very interesting to calibrate the compass. You have to spin it in all directions. It's very interesting, but it's a pretty self-explanatory, simple feature, and you would just need to make sure you're holding it kind of flat, like as if it was on a table, even if it's in your hand, and then you can point it in different directions and have it tell you the directions. Now, what are some of my thoughts and experiences when using this device? I want to talk about the actual onboarding process. When you first turn on the device, and it takes you through a setup wizard, which is really neat. I actually really enjoyed that.
Preparing device.
So
Welcome to the Stellar Trek startup. We will guide you to pair a Bluetooth device, establish a Wi-Fi connection, allowing to update the Stellar Trek software and install maps.
I did not read the manual. I didn't look up any videos really about this device. I just looked at the web page of the Stellar Trek. I kind of just jumped in and said, oh, well, let's try to see what this is like. And having that onboarding wizard, it just kind of took you through each step, and it kind of gave you some general guidelines of how to use it, what to press. All of that was super helpful. Something I probably should have mentioned earlier is you can connect this to a Bluetooth keyboard, which is actually what I did to set up Wi-Fi. It's definitely much easier to use a Bluetooth keyboard than trying to type on the device. Typing is so-so. Honestly, dictation is so-so. It does take a while a lot of the time to actually process the dictation, but also sometimes it just doesn't understand you, particularly when you're out walking and there's a lot of noise around you. It just has a really hard time with dictation. The search is not very forgiving. If I type in like a name of a street, if I'm looking for Church Circle, for example, which is just like a random street name that I just thought of. If I type in Church Circle, sometimes it'll get it. If I type in CIRCLE with the church, and sometimes it won't, and it will like prefer if I just put CIR, and I don't know why, but sometimes search is finicky, and I wish it was more forgiving, because there would be times that I would have to enter addresses multiple times in multiple different ways to try to make it find a particular street name. Usually it's street name that I had trouble with. It also takes a while to find. Usually the state is fine, the country is fine. The city and the street take a while to load, and I wish it was faster. Anytime you did enter an address or made a landmark or navigated or started a route, that adds it to your landmarks, and when you go to the go-to, it will show up there. You don't have to type it in again. I was really happy when I figured that out. My suggestion would be, if you have multiple places that you want to go to, maybe when you're at home, plug them all in and then have them like appear on the landmarks list. That way, when you're actually out, you don't have to be standing in the middle of the street trying to pull up an address and trying to search for it and everything, because just way easier to use the go-to and then go through the list and then start your route from there. So much easier. Even starting routes from points of interest are pretty easy though. That was pretty neat. I tried that when I was downtown, and it took me to the place I needed to go. I do wish there were little kind of setup wizards or tours of applications and how to use them, particularly the address confirmation. That would have been super nice. It kind of makes me think of phones and apps and how, you know, you have like if you're a first time user of a particular app, it'll kind of give you a tour or tell you what you can do or how it works. And I think that would have been great. Some of it you can just kind of spam buttons and figure it out, which is kind of what I did. But I guess for the address confirmation, I had to read the instructions for that one. I was very confused. You have quite a lot of different voices to choose from, and I really enjoyed just sitting there and listening to all the voices that I could pick. That's always fun, even just doing that on your phone or your iPhone, especially since that has quite a lot of voices. The Stellar track uses the a cappella voices, and I'm really happy with the voice that I picked, which is Darius. I'm really geographically challenged. I guess I'm really ignorant of what's around me and what I'm passing and of like the different streets, and I just did not know all the street names around me. I'm like, what? There's a street name called that? That is so funny. I would have it going and I would just like listen to all the streets as we passed by, and I would kind of also spam the where am I button and the what's around points of interest, and I'd be like, oh, I didn't know all this was here. I felt like the world was kind of opening up for me. I'm like, oh, maybe it's kind of good to, you know, go out. Even just the direction that I'm going in, north, south, east, west, it would just be really confusing for me, and I was just like, wow, this makes a lot of sense. I really enjoyed that aspect, and it was really funny. I went with my brother-in-law, and we were testing out the device, and so each and every intersection, I would say like, oh, what was that road? What's that road? What's that road? Is that right? Did it get it right? And it was just a lot of fun, and a 10-minute drive turned into like a 30+ minute drive because we kept passing different places and being like, oh, will it pick up this point of interest? Will it pick up that point of interest? It did really well with the points of interest, though sometimes it would have like weird names or like the proper names of things. For example, like the ball field. It's not just called the ball field, it's called the blah blah blah, and it's like a specific person's name, something field. I did not know that's the name of it. Okay, cool. I'll have to admit that I didn't even know it was there, so maybe these are some simple points, but I feel like sighted people or people that can just see street names and what you're passing, like, take this for granted, and I just really enjoyed having access to this. And yes, we do have apps that are somewhat similar, but I find, like, for example, Lazarillo is one that I tried, and it would be delayed and not always accurate. I don't know if it's my phone or what it is, but I just found that the Stellar track was so much faster to tell me whenever we turned or whatever the intersection was. Like, sometimes Lazarillo, I'd be past an intersection before it told me. I'm like, well, you know, that's not that helpful. Maybe I'm not doing the settings correctly or something, but I really enjoyed that out of the box. Like, I didn't really have to do anything. It already knows and it can tell me right away. And that, like, where am I button is super responsive. Like, I just keep pressing and pressing and pressing and I can know where I am. Now, because this is offline, it doesn't really give you an ETA. You can see all the different steps like I mentioned, but it won't really give you like what time you'll get there, because for some reason it can't make that estimate without like real-time traffic information and things. I wish that it would still give you something, but yeah, for right now that's not available. Like I mentioned before, landmarks and routes are kind of limited by GPS, particularly landmarks. Can't always be as precise as you wish it could be, and I wish that they could integrate something like Microsoft sound beacons or the Clue app where you can, I don't know, spin around 3 times and it can get like the visual data of your surroundings and kind of be more precise with that like landmark instead of just going by GPS, because that can be quite a few feet away. So it can kind of get you in the general vicinity, but you'll still have to like search around, and it'd be really cool to have some more AI integrated into the Stellar Trek. That would be really, really cool. When I first started using it, GPS was struggling a lot to connect sometimes, but now there was a recent software update that also included like the signal strength, and it seems to have helped with the GPS connecting faster. That I really wish that it had a neck strap instead of just a hand strap, because sometimes I would want to carry it, but I don't have a place to clip on the belt clip. And it'd just be helpful to just have it around my neck, and something size adjustable, because usually the ones that only have like one size is like really low for me, since I'm pretty short. I did really enjoy that you can use this with one hand. However, it's not necessarily that it's plastic, and it does have the grippy texture at the back, but sometimes I would feel like I could drop it pretty easily. Not that I did necessarily, but it's just like a kind of slippery material, and I wish there were something that could be more grippy, like some kind of silicone texture or rubber texture. And then when I place it on a surface, since there's no like rubber at the bottom, it'll just slide across the table or whatever I place it in. The battery life was pretty good for me, and it does well for when on standby. It doesn't just like randomly drain. I enjoyed not having to charge it all the time like my phone, and I enjoyed that, like, even if I did leave it in my bag, if I turned it on in the car or wherever I went, that usually it had battery and I could just pick it up and use it right away. About the speakers, I wish that they could actually get louder without distorting. I was in like this section where they had more construction. There was a lot more street noise, and sometimes I would struggle to listen. And yes, you can use headphones, or you can use Bluetooth headphones, and maybe bone conduction if those fit for you. But for me, I just kind of really wanted the speaker to be louder. That would have been really nice. I also really wish they could do more AI, like object detection maybe, and just like that mapping feature that I mentioned earlier. Maybe descriptions, since it does have OCR, if we could get AI descriptions or things like that would be really cool. Though I do understand this is an offline device, so that may be much harder. I just really want to make a note that I really liked using the OCR. I actually preferred using it over my smartphone. And using something like Google Lookout or Seeing AI. Not that it's necessarily faster or better, but having buttons and being able to just like press the sleep button when I don't want it to try to read things, and just being able to more easily, like super easily control the OCR was really, really something that I enjoyed. The barcode scanner I thought was a lot of fun, though it was kind of hard. Sometimes it felt like it struggled with scanning barcodes. It just took a little bit of a longer time, but it was really cool to be able to record your own labels. And I actually went on Amazon to look like, how do you print barcodes? Can you just like get barcode stickers and stick them on things? But apparently you have to customize them. So that's my experience, and the ultimate question is, should you buy it? It has a lot of nice features, and it can be really convenient, but in my opinion, it depends on how much you travel or how much information you like or need. And if you like buttons, if you find that useful, if you find like that you like having a separate device and being able to explore maps and do a lot of navigation. Again, it's also really helpful if you don't want to just, swing your phone around in random places, and if you don't want to drain the battery on your phone, since sometimes when you're traveling you kind of use your phone for emergencies or like really important things, and you always want to have battery for that. So I think it's a really great product. If it is something that you're interested in, it's available on the HumanWare website, and the usual price is $1,595, but you can use the code Carrie, that's CARRIE, for $150 off or $200 off Canadian. I'll have all the information, all the links down in the description as well. If the question is, would I buy it? I'll be honest, I'm a bit of a homebody, and sometimes I have to be dragged out to touch grass and just go out. Also, where I live, they do not believe in sidewalks. So for me, it would be more of an accessory for when I'm in the car or on the few times that I actually go out. But when I used to live in New Jersey, where everything was nearby and I could just walk everywhere, and when I was younger and wanted to go out, because right now I'm so old, I would have loved, and I would have used the heck out of something like this device. I could totally imagine. I wish we had this type of technology back then. That would have been so cool. One day when I live in an area I can actually walk around in, or I have to commute or do a lot more traveling than I do now, then I could absolutely 100% see myself buying and using the Stellar Trek. And even just considering my lifestyle and that I don't really get out that much, I really enjoyed being able to use this and feeling like I knew or could access more about the world around me and understand more of my environment. I'll be sad to have to say goodbye and have to send this back. It was just really nice. It's a really nice overall portable device with buttons. I also really like the idea of making sure that your phone, you can use it for other things, even just listening to music or having a call with somebody and still being able to navigate, because when you're on the call it's really hard to use a screen reader unless you're using headphones, which I don't always like to do. But what do you think? Would you use a device like this, or are you just kind of happy to use your phone? Let me know in the comments, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up below. And if you want to support my work and the channel, consider becoming a YouTube channel or Patreon member. I share extra videos and some behind the scenes, and we have a monthly meetup. That's it for now. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.